Stunting is very low height for age. It is a failure to reach one's genetic potential for height. It is caused by chronic malnutrition. Stunting is endemic in South Asia, with about 64 million children affected by stunted growth. Findings from the 2015 National Nutrition Survey reveal that although 98% of households in Bhutan have access to food, 88% of children aged between 6 and 23 months are not getting the minimum required nutrition. According to the UNICEF Bhutan Representative Rudolf Schwenk, despite recent progress in Bhutan, 1 in every 5 children still remains stunted.
I also have to say that I have been very impressed by the progress that the country has made on many social indicators. So this is something really very special, achieving many of the Millennium Development Goals already. When it comes to stunting, I also have to congratulate the country for making good progress over the last 5 years. The rates actually have gone down from 33% 2010 to 21% in 2015, which is quite significant progress. And the country is now third in the region, actually only behind Sri Lanka and Maldives. So I think that's really an achievement, and the royal government and all the various partners have to be really congratulated. But it also means that 1 in 5 children remain stunted. And stunting is when children are too small for their age, so they don't grow fast enough, and this has of course a significant impact also on their development, on the physical development as much as on the mental and the cognitive development. So this is sort of not very good, and 1 in 5 is still far too many children that have this situation. If I may add, when it comes to anemia, which is an iron deficiency, so it is also a micronutrient deficiency that has severe impacts on the development of children and adolescent girls. Also, the country has made good progress. I think over the last 13 years or so, it went down from 80% in children under 5 years to 40%. But that is also very high still. And then I think in adolescent girls, it is slightly over 30%, which of course then has impact also on the development, or if they become then young mothers later on, they will also have a difficult start, and the children they will give birth to will also have sort of deficiencies already from the start. So this is also something that really needs to be addressed. And when we look at the country sort of in its totality, we can see that there are disparities. So, for example, geographically, we can see that stunting and malnutrition is highest in the east, then the central region, and then less in the western region. We also know that there exist inequalities and disparities between rich and poor families, for example, between urban and rural areas, so it's higher in rural areas, and the education level of mothers. So the less educated the mothers are, the more we see prevalence of stunting and anemia in families.
The UNICEF Bhutan representative says the government of Bhutan, UNICEF and partners are working together to improve undernutrition and micronutrient deficiency among children by working with families.
I have to say that also I'm very impressed by the commitment of the government and other partners to address this situation, because it is a public health issue, and the authorities have seen the need to act. And a national task force was created on nutrition. UNICEF is part of this task force. And we know that the first 1,000 days, the golden 1,000 days, and if you remember, we had the visit of our regional goodwill ambassador, Amir Khan, recently, who also focused very much on advocacy to make people understand that the 1,000 golden days are a window of opportunity for the development of children. Because from the time the child is conceived, so when the young woman is pregnant, she has to be healthy. Then the child is born, there has to be exclusive breastfeeding or as much breastfeeding as possible. Then after 6 months, complemented with diverse food. So to give the child not only rice, but also then fruits and vegetables, and to make sure that the child gets several times a day a variety of food in order to develop. Also early learning is very essential to give the child love and care. So these are very important factors to ensure the healthy upbringing of children. So with this focus, the government has instituted this task force. The task force has prepared an action plan that is multi-sectoral. And multi-sectoral means that health, nutrition, education, water and sanitation, agriculture, all sort of the relevant ministries and all the relevant partners, including UNICEF, including from the United Nations, also the World Health Organization, the World Food Programme, for example, each contributes to the plan, first to the development of the plan, and now to the implementation of the plan. And there are many activities that are targeting, for example, behavior change, because we know that the issue is not so much about food insecurity, because food is available. A variety of food is available. The country is very fertile. I had the privilege to be able and travel already to a number of districts, and I could see myself that it's a very fertile environment, that it's possible to grow a number of different food items. So it's not about food security. I think the recent study showed that 98% actually, so almost all households have food security, but it's about behavior. So the mothers, the parents, the families need to know what is good for children, and they have to feed the children accordingly. So with this, there are the different interventions where UNICEF is also supporting the government and other partners. For example, on training of health workers so that they can educate the mothers when they come to the basic health units or to outreach sessions. For example, education in schools to also tell the children what is good for them. Hand washing programs, also to make sure water and sanitation and hygiene is practiced very well. There can be programs to encourage the growth of vegetables or food varieties. So there's quite a number of activities. Media outreach. So I'm very thankful that you're also focusing on this important issue of nutrition, undernutrition and stunting in the country. So a number of varieties of various activities that we are supporting that may really make a difference.
He added that the South Asian countries have endorsed the global target to reduce the number of stunted children by 40% by 2025.
A chronic malnutrition and stunting is, of course, when it's over a prolonged period. So that means if 7 days a week, if one of the days you don't get the variety of food, then that should not have an impact. But if it is over a prolonged period, and especially the first 1,000 days are critical, and for also the cognitive development of children and the physical development, it is so essential to have a good start in life. So it is really a window of opportunity. And it is relatively easy to grab this window of opportunity if the education is right, if the food that is available is used, is given to the children, and that will have a huge return. I have actually attended last week a high-level meeting on South-South collaboration and exchange, together with a high-level delegation from Bhutan. Her Excellency, the Minister Doji Chodon, led the delegation. And there we had very good papers presented on cognitive capital. So the world is now recognizing that investing in children is the best investment a country can make, as His Majesty the King has often said. We know this, and we cannot emphasize it strong enough, but now we have scientific evidence that shows that if we have the right interventions, the right activities are taken at the right moment, children can really develop well. And the cognitive capital, which means really so many children and so many young countries in the South Asia and East Pacific region, if this is nurtured, it will have a huge investment, a huge return on the investment. So it's a relatively easy investment you can do if there's strong commitment by everyone, and it will have very good return on the investment later on when the children are well developed and they sort of will then foster an economic growth, and it will only be good for the country. So it's a wonderful opportunity that partners, the country, the authorities, together with partners like UNICEF can make.
Boy or a girl?
Boys.
What's his name? No name yet?
No.
No name?
The UNICEF Regional Goodwill Ambassador and film actor and director Amir Khan recently visited Bhutan to meet the children affected by malnutrition and to witness how UNICEF is working to address stunting across Bhutan.
What is the most common?
Cough and cold.
Cough and cold.
Then
In terms of serious illnesses, what is
The Goodwill Ambassador interacted with the students of Yangchifu Higher Secondary School in Thimphu.
I think there's lots that we can learn as Indians from Bhutan. In terms of childcare and nutrition, there's been a lot of progress here in Bhutan, and that's really amazing to see. But of course, we have to reach every last child, and there's still work to be done. I think you guys probably know the basics of good nutrition for children, and I'll just go through the major points. The key points in that is from the time that a baby is conceived, that's when the nutrition begins. So the nutrition for the mother and the rest for the mother is very, very important for the good growth of the child. And the baby is in the mother's womb for 9 months, and when the moment the baby is born, for the first 2 to 3 days, the breast milk that the child gets from the mother is very, very important for creating an immunity for the child at that small age. And for the first 6 months, only breastfeeding is required. A lot of mothers sometimes start to feed the child with water, and water is one of the biggest carriers of diseases. So for the first 6 months, you don't have to give the baby any water at all. It's just mother's milk, which is good enough for the baby. And these are the things, the first 1,000 days from the time the baby is conceived is the critical period for the good growth and the health of the child.
My name is Joki, and my questions: in our country, the government has already started the 6 months maternity leave, but however, in some other countries are not able to complete the 6 months course of breastfeeding now.
Yeah.
So therefore, what would be some of the steps taken to inform the women, especially in rural areas, that a 6 months course of breastfeeding is necessary?
Yes. Well, I mean, the only way to do that is to communicate to everyone in society what the basic fundamental steps are for the health of the mother and the child. In India, we, along with UNICEF, I have made a huge campaign in which we were informing people across the country about what are the right steps to take. India is a very large country, huge population, lot of challenges that we face, and there is a lot of misconception about many things related to childcare. So we did a huge campaign to try and emphasize the important points, which I had just mentioned slightly earlier, of which, breastfeeding for the first only breastfeeding for the first 6 months is a very important step. And then from there till the first 1.5 years, breastfeeding along with some nutritious food is required, some dietary supplements with natural food. All natural food should be used in that. So we try and emphasize this, and we try and keep repeating it to people so that people understand it completely. And we had made a campaign which was led with a lot of stories which emphasize each of these points so that people understand.
My name is Yang Chun, and
Hi.
my question is regarding the 50% tax that the World Health Organization is proposing to charge on sugary drinks due to its abnormally high sugar content. And I was wondering how practical you think this is, and whether it is applicable to countries like India and Bhutan.
Well, I think that what we all have to be aware is that there are certain foods that are very healthy. So, for example, you have natural vegetables and eggs and the natural food that we all eat. And I believe that Bhutan is almost entirely organic in its agriculture. So that's really wonderful. So that is the best form of food that we eat. But as human beings, we sometimes want to, also have a good time. You want to have a Coke or you want to have a soft drink. It has to be within its limits. I don't believe in being an extreme person in any manner. So I believe that sometimes there are, certain things that we can eat and drink which may not be ideal for our health. But as long as we're aware that it's something that we can do with very strict limitations, and one of the ways to do that is taxation. So I think with the taxation, it becomes prohibitive for a lot of people to, have access to that. So one of the ways is prohibition. If something is really harmful to the health of our children, then that is something that we should not only tax, we should just remove entirely. But if it's something that is okay, I mean, I've grown up having soft drinks once in a while. It's not something I would like to do all day long. And water is the main fluid that I like to take in a day. I drink about 4 liters of water a day. But once in a while, if you feel like having a soft drink, it should not go beyond that. Yeah.
Sir, your movies are educational as they deal with social services and social issues. One such film is Tara Zamin Par, which I liked a lot.
Thank you.
In connection to that, what programs would you suggest for the inclusion of specially abled children in all walks of life?
Yes. Well, the film that we made, Tare Zameen Par, is talking about some very fundamental and very, very important things for childcare. One of them being that traditionally we have understood intelligence to be connected to reading and writing. So if a child does not do well in school, we immediately label that child as not very bright, not very smart. But the fact is that human beings have multiple intelligences. So I may not be able to read and write very well. My math may be weak, but I may be able to sing very well. I may be able to act very well. I may be able to play cricket very well. These are all intelligences, hand-eye coordination, the ability for some people to be the life of a party. You have friends which they walk into the room and suddenly everybody is happy and laughing. That person has an intelligence to make you feel good. Some people have the intelligence to introspect. Some people have the intelligence to be caring to others. So there are different intelligences that all of us have as human beings, and we should not rush into a judgment of judging people how intelligent they are just on the basis of the reading and writing. And that is something that the film was trying to say. And the other important thing the film was trying to say is we have to be inclusive as a society. Each one of us in society, there's nobody in this world who does not have a problem. Each one of us have different issues, different challenges, different problems. So who are we to decide that this person has got problems that we do not want to deal with and we want to exclude this person from our society? A person who's born with a disability or is specially challenged is not a person to be kept away. That is part of our society, that's part of our lives, and we should be inclusive of every person. So each one of us has got some difficulties, but each one of us also has strengths and beauty, and that is what makes us so unique. So the film was really trying to say that, and that is something I strongly believe in. Inclusion is something I strongly believe in, and that is something that every progressive society should adopt. There should not be a need for special schools. A child who has certain difficulties should be sitting next to my child and learning together, and my child should also learn from that child. So that is what I believe, yeah, and that's what the film was trying to say, really. So ma'am was telling me that here in Bhutan also you have schools which are especially for special children. The ideal goal is to one day reach. I understand that special children have special needs, and you have special educators to teach them. But the ideal state to be in is if a special child does not need a special school and is sitting right next to my child and is interacting with my child, and there is no need. There should be ideally in the future no need for special schools.
there are so many children being molested by their own family members within the family. So, like, if there is any ways regarding this, if there is any ways we could help these people, help
Yes.
these children
Yes.
without hurting the family sentiments.
Yes, I understand. You know, child sexual abuse is a very important issue, and I think that especially, I mean, we did a program in one of the TV shows that I did called Satyame Vijayate. One of our topics was child sexual abuse, and it is something that is very sad, and the child goes through extreme trauma, doesn't know how to talk about it, does not know how to reach out for help, is confused. So certainly, you know, our attempt should be that we have strong child protection laws, first of all, which now in India we do have. We have very strong child protection laws. Other than that, we need to have a support system in society for children who are going through any traumatic experience like this. And in India, we have an NGO called Childline, which is doing some wonderful work. It's spread across the country. And Childline reaches out and helps children. And they have a number, 1098. So the way to remember is 1098 is their number. It's a helpline number. And any child at any time from anywhere can call that number. And they would reach out and help the child. So society needs to be sensitized about it. Educators need to be sensitized about it, and you have to be able to pick. Parents need to be sensitized about it, and you have to be able to pick early signs of abuse that may be happening. And there is a wonderful workshop that I did with children, which teaches children who are very small to identify the fact that there is something wrong happening and they are being touched inappropriately. And it's a workshop which parents need to do with their children every 6 months. So the child knows what is good touch, what is bad touch, and how is a child expected to respond when something like this happens. The child is taken through that in a very simple steps. So when you have a society which is alert to this, a society which is sensitized to this, with programs all through the year in which through schools, we can sensitize our children through schools about this, and have regular workshops for children right from the age of, even from the age of 3 and 4 onwards, so that the kids can, reach out for help immediately. The parents can be alerted. And I mean, unfortunately, it's a very grave crime to do that, and sometimes there are complications because it's a family member who's doing it, and it's very difficult and very awkward. But if ever you are faced with a situation where you are going through some sort of a sexual abuse, then you must reach out to the person you trust the most. You must reach out to the person you trust most. And remember, it is not your fault. What is happening is not your fault. And you need to protect yourself. You need to reach out to the person you trust most and share what is the trouble that you're facing. And there are people, you will be surprised, sometimes people are scared, but there are people who will help you, and they will come out and they will stand by you.
Considering you're an ambassador for such a large foundation, it's inevitable for you to face people and obstacles which make it difficult for you to achieve your goals. So based on that, my question is, have you ever felt like giving up or hopeless when faced with these hardships, and if not, why? What are the reasons you still continue?
Well, that's a good question. In the work that I've been doing, whether it's in the work that I've been doing with UNICEF, I've not faced any hardships, because this is about children, nutrition, their good health, and almost everyone in society is on the same page on that. But I've been doing this show called Satyame Vijayate, in which we take different topics which affect our society, and almost in every topic there are people who are benefiting from the way things are, and they don't want things to change. So while the large majority of people would like a change for the better, there is a minority which benefits from things not going well. and they are the people who don't want this to happen. They don't want things to change. So I have faced a lot of opposition sometimes, because a lot of times these people are very powerful, they're very rich, they're very powerful people. But the fact is that, you have to do what you have to do. And I have never been deterred. Satyameva Jayate means, it's the motto of India. Satyameva Jayate means truth will always prevail. And with that confidence and with that belief, I have always moved ahead. You have to be strong at times. You have to also be sensible at times. The idea is never to compromise with what you believe in. And there are times that sometimes you feel upset, you feel hopeless, you feel, But then the way I look for strength, the way that I look for is when I meet people who are from ordinary life, they have no wealth, they have no political strength, but I see them doing the most courageous things and fighting against the most difficult odds. And when I see that, it gives me so much inspiration, it gives me so much courage, and it makes me also feel strong. So I take inspiration from people around me who are doing amazing work, and who are putting, humanity even before themselves. So that gives me courage.
In slums and rural places, so what are the measures taken by the UNICEF to help the female gender maintain proper sanitation?
Making what?
Maintain proper sanitation.
Sanitation, yeah.
I think a big challenge is the stigma associated with menstrual hygiene practices for girls, especially in slums and rural areas. Since you spoke specifically about girls, I'll try and address that. And that is an issue that UNICEF has been, trying to work on in terms of how to actually make girls more aware, more confident about their own personal menstrual hygiene, and so that there's less and less stigma attached to it. So there are two pillars to this. One is the entire piece on how you make girls more confident of seeing this as a normal thing. And then, being aware of it and being able to deal with it. And the other part is the facilities, is the services, is the things which are necessary for them to be able to maintain proper menstrual hygiene, which is whether it's a sanitary pad, whether it's the right usage, where they can actually dispose. So there are many other service-related facets which also have to be looked into. So at least in India, in the rural and in the more difficult environments, we are trying to look at both these pillars, which I think also, as I understand from colleagues in UNICEF in Bhutan, that would be the way forward, to look at both these issues of menstrual hygiene behaviors and service deliveries.